What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Dre the Brute Daniels, and welcome to an episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the indies community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game, I want to talk to you. So today we got ourselves a very, very special guest. He is a comic critic for the Comic Book University YouTube channel. No doubt it's going to be very, very interesting to talk to someone of the comic critic community. Give it up, everybody, for Professor Bill.
God? Oh, Dre, what's up? Sorry.
What is going on?
How'd you get in here, man? I was literally just typing up stuff with only one hand, and all of a sudden I hear your voice. What's up? How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm having a good time just having you here in my presence, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good. So, full disclosure, everybody, before we get too deep, Professor Bill here was one of the very first people to give a review on my personal comic series, Trouble with the Rhythm Within. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give him a little nostalgia bubbles.
Still waiting for issue 3.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna get all those print. Like, I'm up to number 5 now, so I'm gonna bundle them up for you. I'm sending them your way. So
Nice.
I can't wait to see all the improvements that I've made over the last couple of years. So
Beautiful.
I took your notes and I'm running with them. So before we dive deep into how we even got here and your comic critics and all that great stuff, let's just get to know you a little bit. Where you're from? How do we get here?
I'm a Italian from Jersey. That probably says everything about my attitude and everything else in the world. Spent, I think, most of my life in Asbury Park, New Jersey. So, I don't know, maybe a different experience than most people are used to. Extremely historic city that's gone through lots and lots of changes and wonderful, incredible people there. I always try to turn everything back to how great Asbury Park is and stuff like that. So, sorry, I go on nostalgia trips a bit.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But aside from that, I've been moved all over the country, all over America, and I've traveled all over the world. And somehow I wound up hooking a Canuck, and now I'm living in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe take me just a little bit. So you were born and raised in Jersey,
Yeah.
and then throughout your travels, what made you want to settle in Canada?
Well, when I got married, at first we tried to live here, but she didn't like. Maybe didn't like America is a little bit too strong. There's gonna be some pride there. Americans like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm a veteran also. Okay, I get it. Wave that damn flag. But yeah, she didn't really like it too much. America. Maybe it's just because it was Jersey. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. We're the armpit of the country. Maybe. I don't know.
A little deodorant might help. Just a tad.
That maybe we could ask. It's a Garden State. I mean, we're like a walking freaking pine cone in your rearview mirror, you know.
Fair enough.
But but I'll tell you what, you know. No, she wanted to finally settle, and she wanted to be close to her family. So I'm like, whatever. I'm malleable. So yeah, we moved up here, Mississauga area.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool, man. So, before you decided to create Comic Book University and do all your critic work, what got you there? Like, what were you doing beforehand? Were you doing anything in the comic industry before all this, or were you just a fan that just evolved?
Well, I read comics since I was a kid, but and I used to draw a lot. I don't draw anymore. I don't think I could draw anymore. But, whatever, practice back into it. Anyway, who cares? I'm not going to. The idea is I did work for a small comic book publishing company that, what was it? Rook? Yeah. No, Angel of Mercy. It was called Angel of Mercy Press. We never actually published a single comic book because we just didn't have the funds for it. I was the editor-in-chief, and my friend was actually the owner, founder. What do you call it? Anyway, yeah, it was a lot. And I wound up having to edit a lot of comic books, and it took back from my knowledge. During the time I was in English, I was a regular English teacher in Saudi Arabia. Later on, I became a professor in a university over there, Saudi Electronic University. but you're a professor when you have the ability but not the credentials. So otherwise you'd be a doctor. So but anyway, yeah, so I was teaching, and I was teaching English mostly, but math also and whatnot. Anyway, so with everything that I had with the English background, my buddy was just like, dude, I really wish you'd help me edit some of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he quickly, he's like, I want you in charge of all the editing. All right, done. So I edited a lot of comic books, worked with a lot of people, dealt with a lot of different personalities. So I have an indie way of looking at things. And yeah, anyway, when we were finished with Saudi Arabia, it was a very sudden thing. My wife was like, I don't want to go back anymore. I was like, well, it was your idea to go in the first place, and we were making bank over there. Bro, I had a maid. Like, we were making so much money. We had a maid for our house.
That's how you know you arrived.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And now suddenly, like, I'm washing windows. It's like it's bad, man. It feels like something from the Jeffersons. I'm just like, what the hell? What the hell is going on? How'd this change happen? But it was like the opposite. Moving on down.
Exactly. I was in the high rise on the east side.
What happens now? I'm in a hovel on the west. What the hell, man? West of Toronto, but nonetheless. Anyway, so yeah, by coming over here, like, I'm still not a citizen. I'm a permanent resident. So I've got my my card. It's basically a green card in Canada. But until I got that, which took longer than it usually takes 2 years to get that, it wound up taking me about 3.5. I was like, I need to do something, and I'm not allowed to work. Like, I had to wait for a work permit, and that was held up and hassled. And I'm like, life sucks right now. I'm not allowed to do anything. So I have to do something. So I decided, let me just start talking about comic book characters, and eventually I got into reviewing comic books on the channel. I'm teaching again, but yeah. Okay, but that's a heck of a journey. That is.
That's a heck of a journey. Wow.
Yeah, doing comic book reviews was a way of me, or just talking about comic book characters in the first place, was a way of me not going insane, stir crazy. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, so we got this background of education. You got your professor style going on over there. And then we end up here, and now you're doing the critique. So now let's go into the journey a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Comic Book University. This is going to be a take that may not be popular with all my fellow brothers and sisters in the independent community, but I am a fan of your work. I am a fan of your work. Like, I love watching your videos. I love watching you have your freakouts. I do. I love your meltdowns. I know a lot of folks are like, no, he just doesn't understand. I'm like, no, he freaks out because he does understand, because he knows what writing is. And now getting your perspective of how you were a head editor and seeing how you had to critique so often, I can see how it transitioned so easily into just going into your comics and now critiquing, in a way, things that you love. So I really, really like that. So I'm gonna ask a question that I know they don't want me to ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What to you makes a comic book good? Now, just to quantify, I'm not talking about good as in the feels, because something can be bad but you still enjoy it, or something can be good that you don't enjoy. I want to know, what to you, in the eyes of a critic, what makes a comic book as a whole good?
Understanding what a comic book is. When you talk about a fight, and this is me being an Italian in New Jersey, when you talk about a fight, when you get that little pipsqueak who shows up to a fight and he's the biggest mouth there, and it's like, the only reason why he hasn't been dropped is because it's like, dude, I feel bad for you. I'm hoping that you have some friends who will tell you.
Chihuahua syndrome.
Wawa syndrome, yeah, Chihuahua, Napoleon complex.
Yeah.
Wawa, why Wawa?
No, Chihuahua, the dog.
Oh, Chihuahua, yeah, Chihuahua. Yeah, right? Yeah. It's like, dude, you're going to get stepped on. Know who you are. Know what you got. Look, you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to do whatever, blah, blah, but don't walk up on somebody like you're going to kick their ass just because they're trying to have a nicety and some decency and not just freaking mush you. Like, stop, grow up. So for me, sometimes people just shouldn't be making comics. And if anybody listens to Jim Cornette, saying my meltdowns are a lot like his, and I'm a huge Jim Cornette fan. I'm an old school wrestling fan. Yeah, right. And sometimes when I see somebody doing something that's just like, this isn't a comic book. This person doesn't get comic books. Look, there's some brilliant people who are great at writing novels. And a novel is something where you don't have pictures aside from the cover, right? Maybe at the chapter head, there'll be something else here and there, whatever, but there are no pictures. So you have to be descriptive. If you're not descriptive on something and I don't have an idea of who this person is and where you're at, if you just say, yeah, I'm in Burberry, England. It's like, okay, how is that different from freaking Castle Rock in the Game of Thrones world?
Sure.
What's where am I? Saying, don't just tell me so. Then you don't know how to write a novel. It's as simple as that. With a comic book, it's the exact opposite. I don't want to read too many descriptions because then it's double the work because I'm already looking at it. This is where you do the trade-off. You talk to your artist, or you are the artist, and you understand that this is a comic book where you purposely have to avoid describing things that can be shown in a comic book. If you don't know what your artist is capable of doing, you've already failed as a writer, right? And this is something that's really important to understand. If I could see somebody run fast, I don't need somebody to say, oh, I've got super speed powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Oh, it's you. Yeah.
Sorry, do we curse on here?
It's okay. It's okay. Go nuts.
Okay, cool. I said Italian from Jersey, so yeah, like there are just certain, it's not even necessarily rules, it's an obvious, you have to know who you are, you have to know what you're doing right now, That's what's so crucial to writing a comic book or writing anything, knowing what you're doing. If you're writing a training manual and you're not descriptive, you failed. Right? You failed. Look, anybody buy something from IKEA that you have to build. No English. There's no words. It's not even in Swedish or Danish or whatever. There's no words. They put it in the form of pictures, and it's simple enough that anybody, even somebody who's not good at building things, can look at and say, okay, by the pictures, I have to do this. Now I have to flip it. Now I have to do this. Or buy a transformer. Look at your current transformers, and you look and it's like there are no words. You know what I'm saying? Or you don't need the words. The pictures are there to show you step by step how to do this, how to flip this. Okay, turn it upside down now. Turn it from the waist 360. Now put the arms up, right? You have to know what you're writing. Actually, this also helped. When I worked in engineering, I've had to write manuals. Not training manuals. I've actually had to write a training module for a place down in North Carolina who was doing our production work. Nice. So that was one thing. I've had to write detailed characterizations of what I'm doing, the bias boards that I'm testing, the what do you call it? The flash drives that I've programmed, and what I programmed them with. Which solder to use and how much, saying what temperature to operate this in, what temperature does the device itself work in, how high can it drop before it, potentially breaks, like the drop test, all sorts of different things. I've written so much in my life, and they're different things, and you have to know what you're writing in order to be able to write them. So if you're writing a comic book, understand what needs to be written and what should never be written, and then work with what's in between,
And that all makes a lot of sense to me too. The moment that you start describing, like, if somebody is running and then I have to say that I have super speed, it's like if you have a piece of cake and then you put another piece of cake on top of it.
Or like Jim Cornette says, a hat on a hat.
A hat on a hat. Exactly. Perfect. A hat on a hat. I'm like, anybody can see that you're running fast, so you don't have to rub that in my eye.
Exactly.
It's part of.
And why are you going to job out your artist?
Thank you. It's true. That's true.
Right?
And I love the fact of showing and not telling, and the idea of you don't need both. And like you said, when it comes to like a regular novel, you better tell me something, because if you just drop me like, oh, you're in England, describe England to me. What if I've never been there before? Or I have no idea what I'm talking about. You better write something down. But as far as graphic is concerned, once that picture is painted, you don't have to write, oh, this is that street, and this is this street, this is that street. I'm like, bruh,
Anne Rice, in Interview with the Vampire, goes on for 6 pages. I'm not exaggerating. 6 pages talking about the grass in front of the castle.
Oh, God, who's got that kind of time?
Yeah, but she's still an incredible writer because when she does it, it's like, I'm invested, you know? But what you just said, show, don't tell, even in novels, which is a work of fiction, right? It's not a nonfiction work. A novel, for anybody who's not familiar, a novel is a work of fiction in the literary world. They still tell you, show, don't tell. Don't just say, Joan is angry. You know what I'm saying? Or Joan said angrily. You know, just have her, she seethes as she walks up to Bob and she says in a low, raspy, angry or volatile voice, how dare you? You know, you just showed me with words. You showed me that she's angry.
Yep.
I don't need you to say she's angry. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you pat me on the head? Because I understood. I don't need that. You know? And show, don't tell in writing. When you're talking about comic books, you want to shine as a writer. And the artist wants to shine also. And the writer is in charge of all of it. You know? Yep. Not even the editor necessarily. The writer is in control of all of that stuff. So most of it falls on the writer.
100%. I agree with that 100%. A couple of folks I've spoken with, that I shared some of my scripts that I've made with, and they was like, why do you have so many stage directions? I'm like, because I want things to be placed in a certain location. I'm like, are you not writing this way? Like, oh no, I just write, this is what's happening. I'm like, bro.
Why? Don't you have an artist?
It's in you. Like, yo, I'm like my friend, and he was new, so I gave him a little leeway, but I was like, hey, you know what's going on. Your audience does not. Just because you picture it some way does not mean that it's being directed that way. You have to be the director of your artiste. You have to, because if you're just going to let your artists do guesswork, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do guesswork. And then you're like, oh, wait, that's not what I was really thinking. I'm like, but if you have no direction, if you take a car, you take the steering wheel out that mug, guess what? You everywhere, baby. No question, no doubt. You're going everywhere. So everything you said, Professor, I agree 110%. And I mean, I have no rebuttal. It's 100%. I could not agree with you more. And that's why, and I think that's why I vibe with your critique so much. One thing that you had said about one of my initial books that I produced was about the bubbling and the lettering. That's one thing that you had mentioned that I myself, I never gave any real thought to when I was doing the direction of the bubbles that I wanted, or the bolding of certain letters. And I was like, like the professor's got a good point here. Like, how can I convey the intensity of what's being said? I know it's intense, but how will I get my audience to know if I do not do those small details, those small differentiations? And once I saw the pattern of how something could have been misconstrued, I said, yo, we're changing this, we're changing that, we're moving this. Hey, change this bubble. Hey, bold this letter. Hey, this type of textile, we're going to change that one. We're going to do that type of italicize. I'm like, the professor was right. Plain and simple, he was right. I said, this needs to change. And
I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not creating any of this stuff. This is stuff that, the professionals have already done for a long time. It's been done, before. It's been done in the past. But again, I'm going to bring up Jim Cornette again. Jim Cornette is a lot easier on the indie guys than he is on the people who have been in the professionals for a while. Agreed. And I take that exact same approach. It's like, it's very rare, very, very rare when I, badmouth an indie comic book, and I'll kind of take it to the side and be like, if this person is watching, my recommendation would be such and such and such, or even if they're not watching, one of the things that you're supposed to do in a comic book is you do bang, 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 bang. And I will give little critiques like that. There are going to be some people really quick. I just want to dispel this. Oh, well, if you don't currently do comics or your comic book company, if that wasn't my comic book company, I was doing a favor for a friend. I wasn't even paid for the damn thing. Saying like it's a favor for a friend thing. Nobody got paid, but it's better than the owner, my buddy, who wound up going into debt because of it. So it is what it is. Ooh. But whatever. It's risk, no reward.
Always.
Saying, and sometimes you take the risk and you still don't get a reward. It is what it is. That's what risk is.
That's the game.
But I try to be cool with people. But anyway, as far as like critiquing is concerned, you don't have to be a chef to know that you don't like food if you go into a restaurant. And everybody likes to go onto Google or whatever the little thing is, the internet, Yelp or whatever.
Yep.
And say,
I was thinking of it too. I'm
right?
like, what's that thing?
This restaurant, the wait service is bad, blah, blah. Okay, well, that's one person's opinion. But now you're looking at multiple people's opinions, and it's like, okay, interesting, And I've got, between Saudi Arabia and Canada and America, I've got lots of reviews on Google, for different places. And I always get, this is helpful, this is helpful, this is helpful. Because I understand what your average person is going, not just my experience, but how that experience can relate to other people. You have to step out of your own shoes. I'm not going to walk in and be like, this food didn't taste good to me because I like this kind of food. Because nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about me. Nobody cares.
Really?
But when I can go in and I can look at it, I can say, okay, look. Bang, 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 take myself out of my own freaking world and just look at it that way. That's why I do what I do. But and that's how I do what I do. But yeah, you got to be cooler with the people who are new to this.
Yeah.
But the people who've been in it for a while, they should know better. One of the things they should know better is when you're talking, and it doesn't just have to be in Italian. You did it yourself. You said those small little details. If you were to write that, how do you write you doing that with your finger for the word small, right? You have to think about that. How do I convey that? How about sound effects? One of the things I noticed, the first time I noticed it was with a Batman comic book, the TT. Like, what is TT? And then I realized in the context of it, it's the little clucking of the tongue, And everybody does that from every single culture. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you get that thing that the Kenyans do. It's like, that is awesome. I love that. But nonetheless, like you get that little, when somebody talks like, oh, I was doing such and such. You know what they did? Let me tell you something.
Yep, that's it.
The little TT right there. That, holy crap. And it was done so well. And I don't know if it started in the Batman comic books. That's the first time that I noticed it. I know that I looked at that and reflexively I understood within moments that's what the TT stands for. Little things like, what'd you just say? You just, how do you convey that? When do you convey that, right? A big problem that I noticed that Chip Zdarsky has, and I've said it a bunch of times, but I know Chip doesn't watch because I've talked to him, and he's like, oh, yeah, you're the guy who does the comic. I don't watch your comic book reviews, but no, that's cool, and whatever. I was like, are you nice to me? I was like, I'm totally nice to you. Saying he lives right down the street practically from me.
Wow.
He lives, maybe about like 2 miles from where I live. Yeah, no, it's freaking Toronto, man.
Yeah, duh.
I'm right outside of Toronto. Yeah, Marcus Toe, who does some of the X-Men comic book art, and a whole bunch of people live like not too far from me. Anyway, just went off on a tangent, and where was I? So one of the things that Chip does, which hopefully he gets over it, is, and Donnie Cates does it a lot also. I don't know what to do. I'm so frightened. I don't understand. Listen, man, I understand you want to talk like that, but maybe don't put it so much in the comic book because people read that and they have to get over the little hiccups. You want your writing to be smooth. You don't want there to be and even if you don't do the accentuation points where they necessarily should be, like if you did them, like if you bold-faced the word necessarily as opposed to should in the sentence that I just used, fine. You did it wrong, but you didn't do it right, but you didn't necessarily do it wrong. Exactly. There are better ways to do it. You could emphasize the words that you're emphasizing a statement, and that makes the reading just go so much better. Yeah. Right? But you have to also understand when you're stopping things. So when you put a hyphen and you're repeating a letter or a word that you already use, you're conveying the idea that the person is freaked out.
Or hesitant.
Yeah, something along those lines. There's something that's causing them to be choked up. But if you keep, sorry, I'm dying here. If you keep doing it, then you're really just slowing down the reading. You're killing the flow.
I agree.
Right? So, yeah.
Well, that's good.
There's a lot to it.
No, exactly. And like, it's an art form.
Yeah.
It's an art form. And like you said before, earlier, everybody can't do this.
Yeah.
That's like, I can't play the violin. You know what I mean? Not well. Oh yeah, I'll throw the thing on there.
I'm a tall guy. I'll bring it back to, like fighting. I'm a tall guy. I'm not a big guy. You know what I'm saying? So listen, my martial arts background, we're standing, I'm going to take somebody out. If we drop, I know that I've got certain amount of time to do what I got to do so I can get back on my feet, because I want to fight to stay on our feet as long as possible. If we drop for too long and it's a bigger guy, I'm going to get my ass beat on the ground. And I have to know that. I can't think that I'm Braun Strowman. Exactly. I'm not.
You are.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Not many people are.
Right?
So yeah, but I agree. I agree with everything you said. I could not have vibed more from your descriptions. I really think that the art form itself, well, lately I think it's taken a really big hit and it's been falling backwards and it's getting unrecognizable to me.
It's too streamlined.
Yes, and it's getting ugly. It's getting real ugly. It's getting dark. I'm starting to sweat now. It's getting dark.
I just had a colorist contact me recently for a Star Trek book that I did, the most recent Star Trek book that I reviewed.
Okay.
And he wasn't offended at all by what I said, but he's just like, some of the things that you said.
Wait, he was the colorist for that book?
He was the colorist for that comic book.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was just like, because the thing that I said, and I didn't even mention the color. I said his name and I moved on, but I didn't critique the colors because I was too hung up on the pencils. I didn't feel like there were inks. I didn't feel like there was strong inking. And the same person who did the pencils did the inks. So I felt like they focused more on the pencils and less on the inks. They just really traced their own work as opposed to doing a lot of shading, which is, it is what it is. Whatever, it is what it is. Hey, some people are really good at that, like Gene Colan. Gene Colan, when he would pass over, the guy would turn this, and Jim Shooter hated this, and I love Jim Shooter and a lot of things that he says, but I feel like he was slightly wrong on this. When it comes to inking, how do you ink when somebody does like the side of their pencil in different shades, all over the things to do? Gene Colan's work was better as black and whites. Just look at the old Dracula books to understand that. You know what I'm saying? The Tomb of Dracula and all that stuff. They would have always been better without the colors added to it. The colors depleted from his great art. He was one of the first artists in comic books. Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko are synonymous with saying, I'm not an artist, I'm a cartoonist. Colan was an artist.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. There's certain ways to do that. I don't know, man. Anyway, so I said I feel like the artwork that comes out of IDW is very streamlined. If you open up one IDW book, you've seen the art in every IDW
single
book
one
that they do. Right? They all look the same.
100%.
But Star Trek Mirrorverse, where they're actually killing people and they're assassins and stuff like that, shouldn't look the same as the kids Captain Marvel comic book that IDW does.
Agreed. Every Transformers book ever put on the page.
Exactly. I see multiple different artists' names on there, but for crying out loud, like Ted Adams, the owner, I don't know what he's just like.
I want it all to look like factory. They must be coming out of the same factory. They have
exactly. And I want you to think about this with Jack Kirby. The main thing that he said why he got out of working for Fox Studios art, the King of Comics, he said it was like a factory, and I didn't want to do this. He was an in-betweener. He was an in-betweener for a while, which somebody would draw this main scene and this main scene in an animation, and he would have to draw all the transitions to get from here to there and make it look like this. So every time that there was major movement, he drew all of the in-between stuff for, flipping, You know, the stories like that. So that was an in-betweener. He's like, it felt like being in a factory. My father sold garments from his own factory or his own store. It felt like I was just working there again. Everything was streamlined. So I had to get out and do something different. So working for the different companies, eventually Atlas, Timely, Marvel, you know, all the same company. That's what made him feel like I'm actually doing what I need to do. And he became the king of comics by doing that. And that's the thing. IDW, I feel like all of that, it's just so streamlined. It all looks the same. So the colors actually got, and it's like, and you can go and look and you can see, I think he actually sent the comment there.
Okay.
It's just like, you know, that's really good, you know, advice. You know, I appreciate that. And I get that a lot, which makes me happy. I don't do these when it comes to Marvel and DC and some of the, you know, larger independents or, you know, indies, whatever, I don't do it for them. I do it for the people so they know, what they, could or shouldn't spend their money on, depending on what they think of my take on things. I agree with Bill's take. I disagree with Bill's take. Buy your comic books based off of that, by all means. When somebody gets in contact with me and such, they can feel offended if they want, but I'm not making these reviews for them. I don't need to make them friends. But enough of these guys have been in a position of writing or drawing for so long that they know how to take the criticism.
Yeah.
And I don't think I do my freakouts too much.
You do them enough.
I've freaked out on Bendis. I've freaked out on Tom King.
And I
don't know. Who else have I freaked out on?
One of your X-Men reviews, you had a freak out.
Oh yeah, that one. I freaked out. I was like, what the hell is it? Well, when you have like Leia Williams and Teenie Howard all in the same podcast, where Leia Williams says, "Yeah, I don't identify with the heroes. I've always identified with the villains." Stop. You don't need to write superhero comics if you can't identify with the hero.
Agreed.
And everybody can't be the Punisher, right? Everybody can't be Wolverine, right? Yeah, everybody can't, walk that dangerous threshold right there. You're either doing Harry Potter or Voldemort.
It's facts.
Like you need to pick sometimes. Like that's your main bread and butter. And if you're only writing, maybe Leia Williams would be better than Jed McKay at doing a Doctor Doom comic book.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe.
And that's one thing, I appreciate what you said there, because I'm a villain guy. I do love villains. I feel that villains make the protagonist worthwhile. That's my personal opinion.
You know a thing by its opposite.
Yep. And I love villains, but I never identify with the villain.
Yeah.
I like to leave my protagonist as like a blank slate, or whatever. But I think the villain is there as an accent to the hero.
Oh yeah.
It's a fancy tie to my tuxedo. Because if I have a fancy tuxedo but my tie is whack, the first thing you're going to say is like, that tie is off. That's the first thing you'll say. And so that's why I always viewed the villain as in a very, very important accent piece to the hero. But never do I ever want to consider identifying with the villain. Then I should make my villain the protagonist. It shouldn't be the villain.
Yes. And that's something that's important to understand. The difference between a protagonist and antagonist. There's the antagonist, which is always the bad guy. But then there's the protagonist, not always the hero.
Exactly.
Not always the hero. Case in point, the greatest comic book, in my opinion, that has ever been done is Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph and Tragedy. Or Triumph and Torment. I actually think I've got it. I've got it close by. Right here. Literally right here. A first edition hardcover. This comic, you can't see that, can you?
You got the weird blur thing.
Yeah, I got the blur thing. I had a meeting and I didn't want people to see all the toys in the back. Oh, damn it. That's what I get. Anyway, it was a Doctor Doom story. Doctor Strange was in it and he was the protagonist, but he wasn't the hero. I'm going to give you a literary point. Have you ever read Lord of the Rings, or at least watch the movie?
I have watched the movies. Full disclaimer, I'm not a fan of the Middle-earth stuff, but I am familiar with it.
That's fine. But the protagonist was Frodo Baggins.
Yes.
Right? Frodo of the Nine Fingers, all that stuff. Who was the hero, though? It was Sam, his partner.
His best friend, the buddy.
His best friend.
Yeah.
Samwise Gamgee was the hero. He was the heroic one. The person moving the story along was Frodo. We knew what the state of Middle Earth was based on how his situation was, but he didn't do a single heroic thing the entire time. The person who did the heroic stuff was his friend Samwise. And the real heroic part was when Samwise did take the ring. He took the ring. He put the ring on. He took Sting. He took his elven cloak. And he ran in and he was chasing down orcs. And people were like, holy crap! They were running from him. And he picked up, and then the part where if you don't cry, you're a soulless son of a gun. Where Frodo keeps on yelling at him, you can't take the ring. Give me back the ring, Samwise. You can't handle it. It's like, bitch, you can't handle it either. Yeah, but he was taking it. Yeah. He was holding the whole time. And at one point, Samwise says, I can't carry the ring, Mr. Frodo.
But I can carry you.
Right! Like that is a powerful moment. Even if you're just reading the book, you're like, God damn, you stand up. And you're like, holy crap, right? I get emotional for good writing.
I'm with it.
And J.R.R. Tolkien, right?
I'm with you.
I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. And he picks him. And then when you see the movie, obviously with the music, that also helps. But that's something important also when you talk about directing. The music, that's important, right? There's no music for a comic book. So what do you do instead? Literally, what do you do instead? So moments like that. Samwise was the freaking hero, right?
Woo, you into it.
I'm wearing this stuff, man. Anyway, the idea is like, I got these lights on also, man. Right? But that's what I'm talking about. What is your protagonist? Who is your protagonist? Who is your hero? Because maybe they're not the same.
Indeed.
Right? If you're looking at Dune, Paul Atreides is the freaking hero, and he's the protagonist. But something very rare is done in that movie. Or in that book. You've got about 24...
the original Dune book.
The original Dune book. Mm-hmm. You've got about 24 different voices in there.
Yeah.
That's almost like stream of conscious. That's some stuff that Virginia Woolf would do. And everybody hates Virginia Woolf. That's true. Everybody's just like, no, her stuff sucks. I hate reading her stuff. Because it's all stream of conscious. This person will be thinking something, then you'll see this person thinks that. And it's like, I'm confused. I'm tired. I'm sitting down, but I'm tired reading this. You know what I'm saying?
Eyes get heavy, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because, some writers are popular for the wrong reasons. She's literally a case of what not to do. True. But then Frank Herbert does it in the Dune books, and it's just done so well. It's like, holy crap. Look at what this guy's done. We've got the mindset. We can literally go in the mind of Paul, in the mind of his mother, in the mind of, and this just in the opening, chapter, the mind of Helen Geheim, whatever the heck, the Reverend Mother, who's going to put his hand in the box. And it's like, holy crap. We're in the minds of three different people here, but I fully understand what's going on. You can break the rules if you know how to do it. But that's what's important. But you got to walk before you run. You got to crawl before you walk. You got to be born before you start crawling. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So, well, Professor, I can't tell you how much fun this has been. Seeing you. I mean, and that's the fact.
I got to go take my meds.
How the fact of how deep you know your craft and how much you have a passion for that craft. And once again, I'm a fan of your freakouts. I love your freakouts. I'm a fan of it.
Sometimes they're positive freakouts.
Because this is the thing. I know fandom when I see it. I know fandom. And the reason why you have those full-blown cataclysmic breakdowns is because you love so hard into it. And you know what's good. You know how it's supposed to go down, or know how writing is supposed to put together, and you're seeing it being besmirched from time to time. So I can see that passion, and that's why you are my favorite critic. This is why you're my favorite critic, Professor. This is why. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been buckets of fun. I'm so glad that you're able to make the time. And so everybody, including my indie people out there, where am I supposed to point this way? This way. Professor Bill's a good one.
Oh, I'm over there for you? Okay.
For me, yeah, you're over here. He's a good one. If you want to have your work critiqued properly, this is the guy.
That's all good.
This is the guy you want to talk to. Is he going to come at you? Oh, yes, indeed he is.
Oh, come on. I didn't come after you.
Oh,
I didn't come after you.
Not too hard.
There's a lot of come
Not too hard.
on. I don't think I came.
No.
Like
No,
I said, it's very rare I come after an indie guy because
Nah,
I understand.
No, you were great.
brand
No,
new.
Professor. No, seriousness, you were great to me. You were great to me. But the critiques that you did give me, I definitely used in my work, and there's very few critics that will actually give real critiques that isn't biased or
I
some
appreciate that.
I wanted to see this and blah 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 blah. But even despite the something that's not your vision, you still know how to increase someone else's vision, and for that I have a great deal of respect for your craft and a great deal of respect for the work that you do.
Thank you.
So everybody out there, check out Comic Book University. Follow the good professor on Twitter. I'll leave all his links in the description section below. Show this man your work. Show this man your work. He'll definitely give you honesty and integrity. So everybody, this has been the Indie Corner. I am Trey the Brute Daniels. Follow me on all my dope social media platforms at TheBrute00 on everything. They'll be right below my face.
I think
they
you're
should
this
be.
way.
Or maybe this way. Maybe that way.
Are you this way?
I
Are
think
you
I'm
this way for me?
I think I'm here.
Okay.
It's there somewhere. Click me somewhere. So follow me on all those social media platforms. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. Once again, this is the Indie Corner, and I will catch you all next time. Also, if you want to support my channel, check out spinwiz.com or download the Spinwiz app and check out my comic series, Trouble. It was written with a lot of love, and it was definitely my favorite comic series to write. I've also written it in English and in Spanish, so whatever floats your boat, I got it for you. Thanks again, and check it out.